Welcome to Policy Matters. This is your boy Mongo Slade. So today we're going to talk about the minimum wage, which another one of my favorite punching bags. But today we're going to look at a minimum wage from any other name. They think they could change the name of it. It's not funny, but it's funny. It's not funny because people lost their jobs, but this is stupid, right? So this is what happens. California, well, I think it's Long Beach, right? Long Beach, California decided to create what's called hero pay, a city ordinance that requires all businesses to pay an extra $4 an hour for their employees who are quote unquote frontline workers during the pandemic. And can you guess what happened? People lost their jobs. Stores started closing. Well, I'll just be damned. So this is from the Foundation for Economic Education. We're going to read this, and then we're going to go through our senior, the beloved Walter E. Williams, God bless his soul, who told us about the horrors of the minimum wage. So, local Kroger stores close as California hero pay ordinance backfires. This is from February the 2nd, 2021. A new hero pay mandate in Long Beach has inadvertently cost some frontline grocery workers their jobs. Ralph's and Food for Less, both owned by the parent company Kroger, announced Monday they will be closing 25% of their stores in Long Beach after the city council passed an ordinance requiring companies with over 300 employees nationwide to pay employees an extra $4 an hour. Local news outlet Fox 11 reports 2 stores in the area will be shut down. A company spokesperson directly cited the city's council's ordinance mandating higher wages as the reasons they are closing down. The irreparable harm that will come to employees and local citizens as long as direct results of the city of Long Beach's attempt to pick winners and losers is deeply unfortunate, the spokesperson said. We are truly saddened that our associates and customers will ultimately be the real victims of the city council's actions. Oh boy, so sad. Continued. The ordinance was passed with the stated intention of rewarding hardworking grocery store employees who have kept a vital service running throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. Long Beach Mayor Robert Garcia was a prominent key proponent of the measure and signed it into law. He argues it is justified because grocery workers, quote, have been on the front lines of this pandemic and deserve this support. So these are tweets from Robert Garcia, the mayor of Long Beach. Tomorrow, on the day we inaugurate our new president, I'll sign into law a $4 an hour hero pay increase to our hardworking grocery and supermarket workers. They have been on the front lines of this pandemic and deserve this support. Similarly, Garcia and other supporters of the mandated wage hike argue that companies are just being selfish by closing down rather than paying their workers more. They point to the fact that Kroger has seen high levels of profit this year. More from Garcia. When large corporations make record profits and double their earnings, they need to share that success with those providing the labor. Period. In truth, whether the company is being selfish and whether it's really flush with cash, Kroger says these specific stores were already struggling financially, are both beside the point. This mandatory wage hike, quote-unquote honoring heroes, was passed by politicians eager to spend other people's money and claim the credit. But like any minimum wage law, it was always going to have the unintended consequence of eliminating some jobs altogether. The minimum wage in Long Beach is already $14 an hour for employers with 26 or more employees. A $4 increase would therefore be $18 an hour, a nearly 30% raise for every employee. This amounts to an enormous spike in a grocery store's labor costs, which are already one of the biggest expenses an enterprise usually faces. So, Jesus Christ. See, there's more to this article. There's there's more to it, but it's basically oh, okay. I can't say there's more to it and not tell you what's more to it. Okay. So it says, whether do-good politicians feel workers, quote-unquote, deserve it or not, the reality is that some grocery store employees don't provide labor that is worth $18 an hour, and some stores cannot afford to pay such an artificially high price. The basic laws of supply and demand tell us what comes next. The government's supposed benevolence will have a significant number of workers unemployed. This specific instance of wage mandates backfiring is just one example of a much broader trend. On the national level, the Fight for 15 movement, demanding a $15 federal minimum wage, ostensibly seeks to help workers. In reality, the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office projects that this policy would eliminate 1.3 to 3.7 million jobs. A wealth of economic research similarly shows that minimum wage hikes cause unemployment. The moral of the story is clear. Sweeping government price controls and labor market interventions will always have vast unintended consequences. No matter how noble the stated intentions are or how sympathetic the intended beneficiary may be. Indeed, unintended consequences are an inherent feature of big government programs. Quote, every human action has both intended and unintended consequences. Economist Anthony Davies and political scientist James Harrigan explain. Human beings react to every rule, regulation, and other governments impose. And their reactions result in outcomes that can be quite different than the outcomes lawmakers intended. The more complex the underlying situation and the more sweeping the rule or regulation, the more pronounced the intended consequences will be. Long Beach lawmakers may truly have hoped to help frontline workers by mandating their higher quote-unquote hero pay under the law, but their naive, good intentions will mean little to the grocery store clerks left unemployed. Is this any way to treat heroes? Very good question. Very good question. This is not a surprise. Anybody who knows basic economics, you should have seen this coming. This is what happens when you have politicians running the society. People who don't provide anything, telling people who provide something what they must do. This is one of the silliest concepts in the world is the minimum wage. Jesus Christ, man. Are you serious? A $14 an hour minimum wage in Long Beach? That's why California is in the shape that it's in. You know, so many good intentions. Everybody with their good intentions. So, let's go to Walter Williams and discuss minimum wage. He has been a real champion of taking the head off the minimum wage. Unfortunately, he passed away recently. So, he says, this is from July the 12th, 2017, Minimum Wage Cruelty by Walter E. Williams. There are political movements to push the federal minimum wage hourly rate. There are political movements to push the federal minimum hourly wage to $15. Raising the minimum wage has popular support among Americans. Their reasons include fighting poverty, preventing worker exploitation, and providing a living wage. For the most part, the intentions behind the support for raising the minimum wage are decent. But when we evaluate the public policy, the effect of the policy is far more important than the intentions. So let's examine the effects of increases in minimum wages. The average wage for a cashier is around $10 an hour, about $21,000 a year. There's no great stakes, but it's an honest job for full or part-time workers and retirees wanting to earn some extra cash. In anticipation of a $15 an hour wage becoming federal law, many firms are beginning the automation process to economize on their labor usage. Panera Bread, a counter-served cafe chain, anticipates replacing most of its cashiers with kiosks. McDonald's is rolling out self-service kiosks that allow customers to order and pay for their food without ever having to interact with a human. Momentum Machines have developed a meat-flipping robot which can turn out 360 hamburgers in an hour. These and other measures are direct responses to rising labor costs and expectations of higher minimum wages. Here's my question to supporters of higher minimum wages. How compassionate is it to create legislation that destroys an earning opportunity? Again, making $21,000 a year as a cashier is no great shakes, but it's better than going on welfare, needing unemployment compensation, or idleness. Why would anybody work for $21,000 a year if he had a higher paying alternative? Obviously, the $21,000 a year job is the best opportunity. How compassionate is it to call for a government policy that destroys a person's best opportunity? I say it's cruel. San Francisco might give us some evidence for what a $15 minimum wage does. According to the East Bay Times, about 60 restaurants around the Bay Area closed between September and January. I'm guessing this is 2017. A recent study by Michael Luca of Harvard Business School and Dara Lee Luca of Mathematica Policy Research calculated that every $1 hike in the minimum hourly wage, there is a 14% increase in the likelihood that a restaurant rated 3.5 stars on Yelp will go out of business. Fresno Bee reporter Jeremy Bagat says that even some of San Francisco's best restaurants fell prey to higher minimum wages. One saw its profit margins fall from 8.5% in 2012 to 1.5% by 2015. Oh, woof. Most restaurants are thought to require profit margins between 3 and 5% to survive. Some think it's greed that motivates businessmen to seek substitutes for labor, such as kiosks, as wages rise. But don't blame businessmen, just look in the mirror. Suppose both McDonald's and Burger King are faced with higher labor costs as a result of higher minimum wages. McDonald's lowers its labor costs by installing kiosks and laying off workers. But Burger King decides not to automate, but instead keep the same amount of labor. To cover its higher labor costs, Burger King must charge higher prices for its meals, whereas McDonald's gets by while charging lower prices. Which restaurant do you think people will patronize? I'm guessing McDonald's. What customers want is an important part of the company's decision making. But there are other actors to whom companies are beholden. There are the company's investors, who are looking for returns on their investments. If one company responds appropriately to higher labor costs, it will produce a higher investor return than one that does not. That means buy signals for the stock of a company that responds properly and sell signals for the stock of one that does not, as well as possible outside takeover attempts for the latter. The best way to help low-wage workers earn higher wages is to make them more productive. And that's not accomplished simply by saying they are more productive by mandating higher wages. So there we go. The minimum wage is the devil. I've been saying it for a little while now. Again, anybody who knows anything about economics could have saw this coming. It's pretty fucking obvious. He gave a great example. Walter Williams gave a great example of Burger King and McDonald's, right? If you put them side by, but see, here's the thing. Here's what we always get the wires crossed. When I read the article about the hero pay, what did the mayor say? He didn't say, well, sorry, we fucked up. He said, well, Kroger's making a lot of money anyway. It's like, number one, so what? It's my money, so what? Number two, just because Kroger is making a lot of money, you mandated this for other companies as well. So we always look to the big companies and say, well, you can pay it. That's why when Walter Williams used McDonald's and Burger King, I was like, okay, but what about the mom and pop burger shops? Because those shops also get caught up in these minimum wage laws. People be like, fight for 15 because McDonald's, and it's like, but not every burger joint is McDonald's. Some burger joints are Culver's. Some are, smaller, local, like we call them Coney Islands here in Detroit. You'll have a smaller Coney type place. So what you're saying is somebody who used to be able to go to a restaurant and get a chili dog for $1 now has to pay $1.50 for that same product because somebody decided to up the price. Now, it may even go higher than that depending on the minimum wage, right? Because it may go from 99 cents for a chili dog or something like that, and it may just jump up to $1.50. Hell, it may jump up to $2.25 depending on how much the minimum wage is. And then when they start doing things like quote unquote hero pay, then you're upping it again. And then you have food taxes and a bunch of other stuff, transportation taxes, gas taxes, all that type of stuff that's been going on too. These things aren't in a vacuum. I always say the economy is a chain. They're talking about upping the transportation. They're talking about upping transportation costs by Buttigieg or whatever the fuck. Whoever is dealing with transportation at the federal level. He's going to raise the cost of transports. by upping the gas tax. That's what it is, the gas tax. He's going to up the gas tax. That means it's going to cost you poor people more to use the bus. It's going to cost poor people more to use Uber and Lyft and anything that uses gas. That's the point. But you see these people all the time. They talk about how much they hate gas. We're trying to get rid of the gas and move everybody towards electric cars, and we're trying to, fight pollution and all this bullshit, right? Not thinking that the average person has to pay the cost for this. It's the average person who gets fucked over. By trying to fuck over Kroger, you're not fucking over Kroger. Kroger is what it is because it's successful. They're multi-billionaires. They don't give a shit about the up in the minimum wage. You're not hurting them. You're hurting the people who work there. So you think you're helping them, but you're not. And I question sometimes whether these people actually bother to Google these things and learn about simple economics and not just go off of a script that they read and believe that, oh, well, everybody should be able to pay this. And it's like, that's not true. It's clearly not true. Not everybody is Kroger's. Not everybody is McDonald's or Burger King. So when they out here in front of McDonald's talking about $15 minimum wage, it's like, okay, but that's not just for McDonald's. It's for all other shops too. And you're going to fuck over a lot of people. But, hey, I'm just one of the many idiots sitting in the corner doing nothing. They don't want to listen to me. I'm just trying to take what small percentage of the world I got, if I got your attention, and let it be known, when you start talking about unions, which almost guarantee a minimum wage, because unions guarantee minimum wages, they want everybody to be paid the same, especially when they come in the door, then what you end up with is higher production costs, higher labor costs rather, and higher production costs too, because it's going to be higher in some other way. But I see also that people talk about, well, productivity is going up while wages are coming down. And I say, do you understand that technology is causing productivity to go up? So that's the difference there. And as what Walter Williams was talking about, people get into automated services and they become a lot more productive than a human being. You don't have to give a burger flipping robot time off, right? They don't need a day off. They don't need a sick day. So they're more productive than a human being. A self-serve kiosk is a lot more productive than a cashier because they don't need time off. They don't need a smoke break. They don't need that 15-minute break that you have to pay for. They don't need that 30-minute lunch break. They don't need it. People can just do whatever they want and move on. And eventually, it's going to get to the point where it's going to be like, we can't believe people ever did those jobs. Like going out tilling in the fields. There are certain people who till in the fields today, like strawberry pickers. Like, that's a very difficult job. And people sometimes don't be like, there's people who still pick strawberries by hand? It's like, yeah, there are. And some people are just stupefied. They can't believe this actually still happening. It's because there are low-skilled people out there. They need to get what they can. And working in grocery stores, working in restaurants, that's sometimes a great opportunity for them. Like Walter E. Williams said, that's a great opportunity. It's a place to get started if you're a teenager. Because I didn't even mention, and nobody mentioned in this whole piece, that the minimum wage actually hurts young people more. So young people who have no skills, you're fresh out of high school, you're trying to find something to do, with your life. Sometimes these people are even in high school. You're trying to find something to do. You try to go to work at Wendy's or something like that, and now they've priced you out of the market because, well, the minimum wage is $18 goddamn dollars. At 18 years old, what skills do you have that warrants you making $18 an hour? You don't have any. Even if you're 30 or something like that, and you've never really had a job before, or because you was living off somebody else, or you went to jail when you were young and now you're just coming out or something like that, what skills do you have? That's really what we should be looking at as far as what people should be paid. What is your skill level? What are you bringing to the table? But those are the conversations we end up having. We end up having these conversations about what feels good. And not what feels good isn't always good. All right, like this video, share this video, subscribe to this channel. Thank you guys, and I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.